Hi everyone, good to see you all once again. We're on video number 3. We're almost there. Almost there. This video we'll be working on the bow tie and the rebozo. The rebozo is the red scarf that's hanging around Ireni's arms. And we'll be working on a little bit of the flower by her ear. All right. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Grab your coffee, grab your smoothie, tea, and let's get into it. I'll see you there. In this session, I'll start with the bow tie. I'm just adding layers over here. It's a little bit fast, but I'm just layering, adding my darks, making it general, getting a general feel for it, adding some darks in there, putting highlights, starting with the darks first, at the darker part of the painting, and then later on I'll go in and start adding specific highlights. But right now it's just getting the general shape and color. That's what I'm doing. I'm just looking at my reference photo and I'm trying to color match as much as possible. Now I'm getting a little bit brighter in the colors. I'm just filling out certain areas. It looks a lot lighter over here because of the angle of the camera, but it's not as light as it seems. The angle of the camera making it look a little bit more shiny, but it's not that light. Yeah, still adding on there, just building it up really till I get what I really want. So most of this is just a lot of back and forth, adding darks, going back, adding some light here, going back again, building until I get the shape or the thing I want. Yeah, this process took a little bit more time, so I had to speed it up a little bit longer to fit everything into this video. Over and over. Now, looking at it, I can kind of see where my highlights are supposed to go, how dark I'm supposed to make certain areas, and to make it pop a little bit better. Okay, I think I'm just kind of separating the color now from the rebozo, so I get a definite shape of the rebozo. Oh, sorry, from the bow tie, so I get a shape of the bow tie. Yeah. So I did a few layers on the bow tie and I'm letting it dry a little bit. Maybe I might go back on it again, but I'm letting it dry so I can work on something else as it's drying. And I added a little bit of blue in there to give it a cool color, and that's what I'm seeing from my reference photo. That's what I'm adding, the blue on the left side of the collar. Yeah, it's just under there is the shadow of the earring that's kind of running through the collar. It's the shadow of the earring. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more layers on the flower. So yeah, I'm just going, you can't really see much because of the angle of the camera, so it's giving me a lot of light, but I'm just building up that flower and making it look beautiful. And in order for it to look beautiful, I just need to color match little by little. Like sometimes when you're working on some details, you want to go really, you get close. When you start looking really close to looking close at the painting, you won't really see what it looks like or the shape, what the overall picture looks like. You'll just see what you're doing, and I think that's what I'm doing here. You won't really tell what it actually is supposed to look like until you step back. Then you kind of get the whole picture. So I step back every now and then, so I know I'm doing the right thing, just so I don't, get too carried away. So I always try to step back a little bit. Right now you won't be able to see much of the flower, but it's getting better. It's just building it up. I did a few layers before and it dried, and I went back to build it up again. Now I'm just adding the shadow of under the earring. I just added the shadow of the earring onto the flower, if you can see that. It's kind of hard to tell, but later on you'll be able to see what everything looks like. Adding my darks in there. Yeah. Yeah, this is very hard to see. For this part, I'm using a small flat brush to get my angles, to get some sharp edges in there. I'm using the small flat brush and I'm just lightly touching. I'm not trying to press too hard on the paint, on the canvas. I'm just touching and trying to get this shape again, or trying to sharpen the edges. Yeah, just going back over and blending the flower so it's a little smoother. And then I think I'm adding a little bit of orange because I see orange in my reference photo. So adding orange, sometimes I'll add orange and I'll see a different color that doesn't even look like it's on the flower, but sometimes it's in there. It just, you won't be able to, see it just by looking at the flower. Sometimes it's just reflection from around the room. Okay, so that dried a little bit. Now I'm adding the first layer of the flowers design on the bow tie. It's just repetitive, so I just sped this part up a little bit. And I'm just looking at what I see, and I just try to copy what I see. And I try to not make it too bright so that I'm not throwing myself off. I add some grading there to make it more realistic. Yeah. Just add some gray, make it very light. Put the first layer on there. It's looking really nice. I like what I see right now. And I'm just using the shape of the brush to help me. I'm trying not to paint it by myself. I'm using the brush. The brush is doing the painting for me. And I'm just lightly going over and just running and connecting. Yeah, that looks nice. And I added some highlights, in just a little bit of highlights in some areas. All right. And now I think we're on the rebozo. So we'll let that dry a little bit. We'll let the bow tie dry, and then we're working on the rebozo now. Just adding some darks between the finger to create depth. Being a little bit, yeah, just adding a little bit more dark, making it general. Let it pop a little bit as the rebozo is wrapped around the fingertips. We want to make it look like there's some shadows underneath, and to make that nice silky feel that the rebozo is trying to give us in the middle there, we have to put the right amount of dark red in there, or the right amount of shadow it's creating based on the lighting they have in the room at that time, or the lighting they have in my reference photo. So I'm just going over it, and I'm using the same blending technique. It might look a little different because you can't really see it slow down, but right now I'm just going over with the darks, redefining. So I went from specific, from general to specific. It was general. The first layer I just did a general, cover and what I saw, and now I'm going to a little bit more specific, adding darks and adding some midtones in there, separating the shadows from the highlights a little bit better. And I'm still working with that sharp edge so I can be able to run my lines where the rebozo folds. I'm running my lines, keeping it sharp, as sharp as possible. Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that. That looks good. Yeah, sometimes when I'm painting it, I don't really, because I'm so close to the painting, I can't really see some of the subtle detail differences. But once you speed it up and you start doing it, you speed up the video when you watch it, you can tell what it really looks like. So yeah, I just keep building, adding colors where I see colors in my reference photo, adding some more, a little bit light over there to kind of help with the silky feel of the rebozo. Yeah, highlights, sorry, shadows, darks, and I try not to just paint the lines. I try to look at shapes. It's just better, and it's a lot easier if you look at the shapes and you paint the shapes rather than trying to paint the lines or paint what you think you're seeing in the picture. Try to paint shapes. It will make it a lot easier for you. And that's what I'm doing. Like right under that arm, I'm working on some darks. I'm pulling it out a little bit, allowing the rebozo to really pop because of that dark detail we have in there. It's allowing the rest to kind of create the sharp edge to pop a little bit. Yeah, I'm finally covering that little mistake part I have there. I had to readjust the rebozo a little bit, that's why I cover. But yeah, and in there I put a little bit of pink because that's what the rebozo is showing me in the reference photo, pink. So I added some pink, and now I'm seeing highlights here. I'm seeing darks, some shadows in areas, and then I'm adding a little bit more red. Yeah, so first it was just general, and now I'm seeing a little bit more. I'm going deeper into the painting, so I'm seeing a little bit more, so I'm adding a little bit more to give it a more beautiful look. And this is the part that, took me a lot longer in this whole painting because I really wanted to get this part right. I wanted to nail it because the rebozo is telling so much in there, and I wanted the painting to, tell the story. Yeah, I just keep building, adding layers and layers and layers. You see that now my brush is a little small. Same small brush I was using on the bow tie, but it's a big rebozo, and to paint it with a tiny brush like that, it takes a lot of time. The difference is if you're painting this kind of detail with a big brush, you might not get the same results because the big brush will cover a little bit more. So that's just for the beginning stages of it, to just cover as much as possible. When you're getting into details, you grab a smaller brush and then you go at it. So just adding more darks in there, redefining some areas I just touched up on at the beginning, just redefining some shadows, making it pop a little bit more. So now, yeah, adding those holes. There's some holes in the rebozo just as designed. Just right now it's just a little general, making it general. It's not very specific, so I just made it super general and just went for it and kept going, just to give me an idea of what's gonna go there. Yeah, keep adding, just keep building on it. And when you're painting, if you're painting for a long time, yeah, take a break, grab something to eat. uh Sometimes you go run some errands, let the paint dry, come back and work on it again. Okay, now I'm working on that part that rolls over the fingertips, that's folded over the fingertips. Yeah, just adding layers, and as you can see, it looks a little orange right over the thumb there, so I added orange because that's what I saw. Yeah, like with this kind of painting, once you have a really good foundation, everything else is a little bit easier. You just have to keep building now. Just keep adding layers and layers and layers and layers and layers on top, because you had a really good foundation. If you don't have a good foundation from the beginning, then you end up fixing a whole lot of mistakes, and that takes even more time. So I'm just adding darks in, just being general, adding some darks in areas, making it darker. Oh, I like that bright red over there. Yeah, that looks good. That looks really good. I like that. Right away, once you some people will say, why don't you just go for the rich colors and just put them in? If you do that, you'll throw everything out of whack, because once again, painting is like chemistry. If you don't add the right ingredients in there, it's like cooking as well. If you don't add the right things in there at the right time, you won't get the results you want. So the layers are very, very important. If you try to rush the process and you just speed it up, your work is gonna tell that you speed it up. You're gonna see that you speed it up. Yeah, so I think I just needed to make this a little bigger. So I add that on there. I like that. I like that. Because I started with really good foundation. It helps the painting look a lot better, because when I add a layer on there, it just pops a little better. If you don't have good foundation and you try to just put the colors in there hoping that it will just pop, it might not, you might not get the same results. So when you're cooking, you have to cook, put the right things in the pot at the right time, or else the food don't taste the same way. That's what I noticed about this, and it's been working for me ever since. Really good. Now it's a little bit faster. I speed it up a little bit faster. Yeah, so I'm just adding darks in areas. Oh, that looks nice. Just pulling that out. Yeah, that looks really good. Give it a nice 3D look. Sharpening some edges and just keep building on whatever I have so far. And that's just pretty much the lesson for this part, for this video. Just building, just adding on there, and also starting with a good foundation. If you have a good foundation and you build on it, you will love your work and you will love your process because you have something to follow step by step. Yeah, over here is there's a tie in the scarf around her waist. I was trying to get that. It's kind of hard to see it from here, but I'm just trying to add more and more to it. I spent a little bit more time on this, but I'm adding layers and layers to this to make it, you know, to make it look like what I see. Just add a little bit of coloring, a little bit of lighter colors in some areas to let it pop a little bit in a general way. Nothing too, detailed. Just a quick general color or shape that will give me the idea of what I'm looking at in the reference photo. Yeah, like those, it's not really gonna make sense to you just looking at it from here, especially this side, because you're not seeing the reference photo. But I'm just trying to color match and shape match and get as much as I can get in there. And if I make mistakes, I just wipe it off with a paper towel or something, like a soft paper towel. Now I'm starting on the second part, on the other arm. Okay, same thing. I start with my dark. I redefine the dark colors in my rebozo on the other side. And then just keep working it, keep building. And I really have a good foundation on this side as well. So I'm just adding and creating more depth, adding darker tones in there, making my shadows a little bit more visible, that allow the other parts to separate or make the fold look a little bit, more realistic. So I'm just adding darker and just making it more specific in this way and building on this. Like I'm seeing a little bit of orange here, so I'm just adding orange to this side and just building on to what I have. I keep building. I'm adding a little bit lighter in some areas. I like that. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, like when I'm building I'm starting or doing my foundations, I don't really care about all those little colors in there. I'm not really looking at it. I'm training my mind to or my eyes. I'm training my eyes to just not look at those details in there. I just go with the specific color I see, put it on there, let it dry, put another specific color on there, let it dry, and then come back in with some more highlights or some more darker tones to kind of allow it to create depth, separate and create the fold, make it a little bit nicer. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just gonna you guys to observe it and watch the process as it unfolds. And I'll stop talking for a little bit so that you guys can see the process and see what I'm doing. Okay, over here I'm just adding another layer on my background. I think this will be the last layer on the background I'm adding. I'm going little by little. And doing it like this takes a little bit more. But now you get to see the painting pop a little bit better as I'm doing this process. I'm using a smaller brush so I don't cover everything too much. It's bigger than the last one, but it's a bit smaller than the first brush I used on the first layer of the background when I was doing it. This one I get to blend a little bit better. Yeah, now I'm using a bigger one. And I think that was a mistake using that bigger brush. It was a mistake because later on I saw that that bigger brush left some lines that I didn't want in there, and the lines dried in there. It wasn't as smooth as the rest of the painting. This process took a little bit longer. Wasn't too long, but it took some time with the brush size I was using. It's like a medium-sized brush, and I just try to get as much as I could in there with all the edges around the paint, just blending little by little, also allowing the colors in the background to pop out. Now I'm working around the body. There's a shadow in there around Ireni's body. On the right there's a shadow, so I'm working the outline of that shadow and making it look really good. I'm just doing general at first, and then I'll go to specific later on. I sped it up really fast because it's so repetitive. I'm just blending as I go. Everything will start to make sense a little bit here. Blending everything little by little, and then I'll go in there and straighten out all the edges on the shadows. Yes, now you can kind of see the shadows a little bit better. Yeah, just looking to see where I have anything. Okay, now the shadows, just redefining the shadows and making the rainy pop, separating her from the shadows. Yeah, just cleaning it up a little bit. I got a smaller brush for that. That'll allow me to get in there and get deeper with my details. I got a smaller brush, and then I just blended it. And when I'm working on this background, I just do it in one go. I try not to let it dry, especially at this stage. I'll do a first layer and let that dry completely, and then when I do this part, I make sure the whole paint is wet before I go back in there, because it will allow me to blend everything a little bit better. And now the shadow is looking more like a shadow. Yeah, I like that. So it looks more like a shadow now. It's not too dark. Now I'm just working around the microphone, working around the edges of the body, the hands, making everything look sharper. All right, we're at the end of the painting. Right before I do the big reveal, I would like to say a big thank you to the Art Mentorship Society of Alberta and also Taro. And I would also like to say thank you to the viewers and the people who send those lovely words of encouragement. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. We're ready for the big reveal. Here we go. Thank you.